How's your tea? Is it alright? Not yet, no. Later. Don't have your toast one before it goes cold. You still got some toast?
Yeah.
Don't waste it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning first.
Kevin, I just wanted to say that I will actually be reading a slightly different version from the one that you put on your screen, but I'll explain that.
Yeah, whatever. To be honest, it's your discretion what you want to do. So don't worry about that, Esther. And I always like to share the screen because not everyone has a prayer book. Even if what you say is different, that's not a problem.
Fine.
Okay. So I think it's quite good if you actually say different. It makes people think, oh, you're saying this, but this is there.
Exactly. Otherwise, people are going to look and see, hang on, this doesn't quite tally.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It gives you something to think about. I actually quite like it. But, oh, that's different. Oh, I wonder why. Yeah, it just gives you something to think about as well. So that's not a problem. There will be some that will complain, but the sort of people.
So long as people don't ask me what the source is.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't think people are that bothered, to be honest.
No, they're not, because I always use the same source.
Am I allowed to ask you what your source is, or is it a secret?
No, it's called the Good News Bible.
Oh, right, interesting. Okay.
Because it's more modern.
Yes, good. Is it gender neutral as well?
No, but I've adapted. I always adapt it.
Okay. Oh, right. It's more. When you say more modern with obviously the language used, I guess, is it? It's more.
Well, when I read it, you will hear some of the words are different.
Yeah, I'll be actually give me something to focus on because I often get bored during outdoor reading. So that will, if there's something that engages me, that will be good.
Yeah.
It's good to see you on the Shabbat as well. I know it's obviously to do your.
Well, that's the only reason I'm here.
Yeah, I know what your views are, which is it's understandable, but it's still good. And we've got Charlie. Hi, Alan. There will be a little extra edge to the service.
Oh, right.
And you can.
Hello, Alan.
You're muted, I think, Alan.
Right. Morning, Kevin. Morning, Esther.
Morning. Yeah. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Your sound's a bit better, Alan. I know you've had sound issues.
It is very odd, isn't it? I think I don't know. It might be when there's only a few people, like it's only 3 of us at the moment. And
it shouldn't make any difference.
You don't think so? I don't know.
No, it should do. Maybe the sound.
It's very temperamental.
Are you talking about Janet or your sound?
I won't comment on that.
No, you better not. I can.
No, I'm on the desktop, which is what do you say is okay now? Good. But Janet goes on the Chromebook, and as I might have said before, that's a real problem with sound. Vision is okay, but apparently we've heard this from more than one person that the Chromebook is not compatible with Zoom. And that's why she has a real problem, and that's why she can't really join in a conversation, because the sound on the Chromebook is so bad.
And sometimes, when you get 2 people in the same household on a different device, that can cause. But actually, you're louder and clearer.
Good. But
so what did you do, Lester? What was your magic wand solution to your sound issues?
I bought a microphone for £8.99.
Oh, that's good value, isn't it, really?
From Amazon, and that seems to have changed everything for me. So hopefully you can all hear me.
Yeah, your sound is brilliant, Esther, yeah.
It's a microphone. Maybe that's something you need to get, Alan, a microphone or...
Well, I bought a camera. Hang on, I think, and yes, it's the camera and the mic all in one thing, which is clipped to the top of the desktop.
Right.
Well, hopefully, that will do the trick.
And what service are we on today?
It's going to be number 3. Charlie will announce it.
Yeah.
I actually think, I sort of vaguely, I don't actually follow it from the prayer book. I quite like actually following a service without actually, but I have to keep it open just in case I'm asked to.
Kevin, are you going to be handling the Zoom for the Seder?
Yes.
Okay, it's just that I've asked my cousin whether she would like to join in.
Oh, fine. If you just, I'm normally let anybody in, but if you let me know of her name.
Her name, sure. Yeah. She may not come, but I thought, she's on her own.
Okay, well, it's fine. Anyone's welcome. Simone Pitt, I'm in regular contact with just to give. She likes reading the newsletter. I'm not sure whether she joins the service remotely, but she likes getting our newsletter. So that was a contact through you.
Yes, Simone is actually a friend of mine.
Yes.
So I was the one who got her involved, and she does like coming to our services. I've no idea whether she'll come today.
Well, she might be here. Simone, if you can hear us on the stream, hello, welcome. I keep forgetting there are people on streaming.
It's
Not that we say anything inappropriate, but
Esther, it's not Simone Lackmaker, any chance, is it?
No.
Because I know another Simone. It's not a very common name, but it's Simone Lackmaker.
Yeah, and it has occurred to me that who's not on our Yacht site list is Vivian Lacqua. I will mention her name, but if I forget, sometimes you do. You know, when it says anybody else, it's important her name's mentioned. It's a year ago today, so
right.
Mention that.
Who does the chooses the yacht sites? Sorry, start again. Who chooses the Haftarah readers?
Me.
Sorry?
Me.
You. Right, okay, because it was Hannah at one time.
It was, but it's just she had, which is fine. Hi, Linda. She handed that over to me, and it kind of.
Hi.
Hey, Linda.
I'll drop you an email then. It's another 2 or 3 months yet, but in July I'd like to read Haftarah
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. Right, we're all coming in thick and fast.
I'll just get my kippah.
Yeah, of course.
Hi, Maureen.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, Maureen.
Hi, Maureen. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Hannah.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, Esther.
Joseph in his usual.
Hello.
Hello.
Kevin, thanks for your email. Yes, thank you. I will do.
Accept. Yeah, the candle. I'm sorry, I miss.
It's all right. Don't worry.
Because I'll be honest, it's all cut and paste, and then I change your name, and you're the
Kevin,
only one.
I've been called worse things.
I bet you have. Oh God, we got a cat. Thank you.
I'll do that.
Yeah, morning, Vanya.
Oh, I must put my hearing aids in.
Oh gosh. And that's Joseph. Do you want to give us a quick sound check, Joseph?
Sure. Okay. La 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 la.
That sounds perfect. What does everyone else feel?
Yeah.
X Factor. Vote him on or off.
Okay.
I think that sounds fine. Welcome back. Joseph, did you get my note about Pesach next Sunday?
Yeah, I just need to have a conversation, which I haven't had a chance to have with Gillian about that.
Okay, we'll discuss that outside of the meeting, but yeah, no worries if you can't. We'll see.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hello, Liberal Sanctuary. That's so good. Oh, look at our sanctuary.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Rania.
Hello, there's Jen.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Rania.
Good morning, Maureen.
Hello. How are you doing?
Hello. Good morning, Alan.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Rania. Who's the Liberal Sanctuary?
Yeah,
Then?
I'm trying to can you look at our sanctuary with nobody in it, but that is interesting. But anyway, it's empty. Because I know you've been there on a regular basis this week, Alan.
I've been there this morning.
You live there, do you?
Yeah,
Right.
they're charging him rent.
The lift
Good
is
morning, Esther.
Good morning. How lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you.
The lift is being dismantled as we speak.
Yeah.
What?
Perhaps when we do the announcements, if we give us a brief update on what's been happening, because I'm it will be of interest. It seems Yeah, the building is now literally.
Yeah, I was there on Thursday. I can add something to that
Okay.
if you like.
Oh, this is, by the way, the Liberal Sanctuary at Stephen.
Oh,
It's Stephen. So what Stephen's done is created a view of our sanctuary, so it could give us a feeling, a homely feeling.
yeah, good.
Lovely.
Hello, Paul. Good morning, and Ruth.
And
You're muted, Paul.
that's a bit.
That's better. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Hello, Shabbat shalom.
Hi, Paul and Ruth and Rosemary. And we're just waiting for the service taker.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Always, I get very, very nervous when the service taker doesn't turn up. It means
Perhaps you got held up in the traffic.
yeah, stuck in. Otherwise, Hannah, I'm sure you could do a good sermon off the top of your head.
At the drop of a hat, yes.
And Janet can read from the scrolls. And I could do the singing.
Actually, it's so much easier to read from the scroll when it's from the fellowship.
Yeah, we're going to be so lazy when we go back to shul.
Well, this is it. My concern is that we're all getting into these sort of bad habits of the Zoom etiquette, even when we're in person. People will be having their breakfast.
Yeah, there was an article in the JC about that last week. I thought, do people really do things like that?
So it will be interesting to see how we actually adapt. There will be a day when we will be meeting in an actual synagogue.
Yeah.
And we've got to remember.
Yeah, we have to learn the Torah script before we come to shul.
Yes.
We have a rabbi.
And after wear trousers, that's the other thing.
Are you wearing a skirt now, Kevin?
Who knows? Only people can only see me from like kind of. We've got welcome, Charlie. George and Mary.
Rania.
Yes.
Are you in lockdown in Paris? Are you in Paris?
We are, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, at last.
Curfew. What?
I think it's very good.
Yes, yeah.
Curfew and lockdown, but very light lockdown.
Oh, right, okay. And what time are you doors? What time what time is your curfew?
7 o'clock in the evening.
Oh, wow, that's early.
Yes.
And French people tend to eat earlier than later than we do. So that means that the restaurants aren't, I suppose, aren't available. They can't eat out.
No.
Jules, the co-host. Hi, Charlie, and I'm just gonna make Charlie the co-host as well, just in case you need to share something. And what? Yep. Okay. Yep. I did. Yep.
You did. So have you got the Torah portion, or do you need?
Yeah. So I could screen share that. Yeah. So I did reply to it. It was at City.
No, it was fine. I sent it very early this morning.
Yeah, Charlie, you can multitask. Sorry, I can't contact you all day about a conference, and then you ain't.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to do both. And also, are you putting the service up on screen?
No, we don't do that. We just go by the Siddur Lev Hadash. So
okay.
Most people should be able to follow it. What we also like to do is just allocate a couple of mitzvahs, so perhaps it'd be a good idea to do this now, if Charlie wants to take note. We normally invite somebody to do the Torah blessings.
Sure, lovely.
Yeah, so any volunteers for the Torah blessings before and after? I can see Linda's hand up, right, Linda first. And then the 3 prayers for the royal family. I think they need all their prayers they could get, so does anyone want to? Okay, that's Maureen. That laughter is I consider that as an exception.
I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it with irony.
Yeah, with irony. You're welcome. As much irony as you like. And for the community, so we've got Maureen for the royal family with irony. Anyone from the community? I could see Hannah's first there, and maybe Alan, you'd like to do Israel then.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Okay.
Okay, and Charlie, just so that Charlie might catch you out and sort of say something to.
No. So we've got Torah blessings, Haftarah blessings, prayers for the royal family et al, and
community in Israel.
And
community in Israel.
Yes. And what about as we go through the service? I can just volunteer people.
Yeah, you could catch somebody out to make sure that they're following. So that's
you hide it.
And we normally start about a few minutes after 11 because of traffic and everything.
Sure, Jewish mean time.
Yeah, some people get stuck on stairs, delays.
Fair enough.
Yeah, washing on stairs sort of delays people and things like that.
Or kettle's not boiling properly.
Yeah, kettle's not boiling quick enough,
Or is someone going to make me a cup of coffee? And where's Joseph?
He's he's there. He's on.
Oh, there he is, right in the middle of my screen. I'm going to.
Otherwise, you'd have to do the singing, Charlie. I know how much you like singing, so.
I love singing, even more than people love hearing me sing.
Yeah, Joseph, be careful, Joseph. He's about to fall off if you push him. So, look. So don't even blow in his direction. Please. So it looks like we'll just give it about a minute or so. Charlie, can you see? Is our sanctuary still? Can you see our sanctuary, our empty sanctuary in the background?
No.
If you're on gallery view, it's called Liberal Sanctuary. Stefan set that up.
No. Where do you have to go?
It's next. Well, it's on my screen. It's next to Janet, above. Well, Stephen still.
Oh yes, we see it now.
Yeah. So Stefan actually said that that's how the sanctuary currently looks, and Stephen. Then we got Stephen how it was. So you can imagine it being empty or full.
Doesn't it look miserable?
It is
miserable and empty.
Are you talking about Stephen's?
No, I'm talking about the picture.
Yeah. Well, we're moving out. Charlie, we're moving. I don't know if you know, we're moving out at the end of this month.
I do know. Yeah, absolutely. It's quite exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a bit sad as well. It's sort of bittersweet. We're going to miss the old building. But...
The whole building is rather depressing at the moment now. But it's been a tremendous effort being done by Mark Phillips and others in clearing everything.
So anyway, Joseph, Charlie, are you ready to go? Are you all set? Charlie, you're muted. Charlie, unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, I thought I had. Kevin, could you send me the Yahrzeit list, please? Or just direct message?
I did, I have sent it, but I can resend it.
Could you just direct message it to me in the...
I know what, I'll read it.
Perfect.
I mean, that'll be better because sort of sending emails due service. I've got it. Okay, so that's fine, and you've got everything else. Okay, well, we welcome Charlie. I don't think Charlie needs any introduction. But one day I think she's going to make it big in Liberal Judaism. I really think she will one day. So, but welcome, Charlie, again. Welcome back. It's always good to have you. I think it's about a few months ago when you were last with us. So we look forward to your service. As usual, we'll know the etiquette. I'm going to mute you all. And obviously when you've got your chance to read, then unmute yourselves. And obviously Joseph and Charlie will also unmute yourself. So it's over to you, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back again. It's really lovely to be with you. We're going to be using Siddur Lev Chadash this morning and Shabbat morning service number 3. And we're going to begin with Ma Tovu.
Israel, ברוב חסדך, עבודתך, אשתחווה וכל חושך, ויראתך. מה טוב, מה טוב הוא, עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טוב, מה טוב הוא, עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. אדוני אהבתי, מעון ביתך, ומקום משכן כבודך, משכן כבודך, ואני אשתחווה ואכרח, אברח לפני אדוני עוזי. מה טוב, מה טוב הוא, עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טוב, מה טוב הוא, עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. ואני תפילתי לך, אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת ישמעך. מה טוב, מה טוב הוא, עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טוב, מה טוב הוא, עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. משכנותיך
And we're on the bottom of page 117. We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake and behold a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for clothes to wear. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the power to rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for daily renewing our strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir she'ena me'enai u'tnuma me'af apai. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the blessing of sleep and the privilege of waking to a new day. Baruch she'amar v'chaya ha'olam, Baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamahulal b'fi amo mushuba mufa'ah b'lshon chasidav va'avadav, b'shvichot u'vizmirot, nagadelcha v'namlichecha, malkeinu yachid, chei ha'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mahulal b'tishbachot. With the coming of day and night, I will enter the covenant of God. And when evening and morning depart, I will recite God's decrees. God Most High, you are my righteousness. You teach me goodness. You are the fountain of knowledge, the dwelling place of holiness, and the summit of glory. Eternal might and majesty are yours. I will choose whatever you teach me, gladly accepting your judgments. As soon as I move my hands and feet, I will praise your name. When I go out and when I come in, when I lie down and when I rise up. When I rest on my bed, I will sing your praise. And in the company of my friends, I will praise you with the words of my mouth.
שירו ליום השבת, מזמושי, שיר ליום השבת. טוב לחדור לאדוני, ולזמר שמך העליון, להעיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך. הלילות, עלי הסוב, עלי נבל, עלי גיון בחינוך, כי שמתן ידני בפועלך, מעשה ידיך רנן, מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, ועוד עמקו מחשבותיך. צדיק אתה continue at the foot of page 121.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שיר שבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. המאר לארץ ולדרים עליה ברחמים, ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני, כולם בחוכמה עשית, מלא הארץ קנייניך. תתברך אדוני אלוהינו על שבח מעשה ידיך, ועל מורה אור שעשית, יעפרוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצא המורות. And we're on the bottom of page 136. And if somebody would like to read for us, please, unmute and read. Thanks, Stephen.
Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. Baruch atah Adonai, abocher ba'amo Yisrael bi'ahava. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you.
I think we seem to have lost Joseph. Is that the same for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Joseph,
so we'll just continue to read to the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וכשאתם ליאת על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אתם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני Adonai Elohem. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you are the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. And then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. I can sing. Or unless Linda's going to lead us.
I can.
Go for it.
No, thank you, Linda.
It's a different tune though, so you might not know it.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's better if it's different. We like variety. Go for it.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, oh sefele, nora tehilot, oh sefele, Adonai, 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 mi kamocha, ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha, nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, sefele, nora tehilot, sefele, Adonai, 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 Adonai.
Beautiful. And stay unmuted, Linda, because we've got some responses coming up. Shira Chadasha Shibchu Golim, Lishimcha Al Safat Hayam, Yechad Kulam Hodu Vihimlichu, Vamru.
Adonai Yimlok, Leolam Va'ed. Zur Yisrael. Sorry, did you want me to? Yeah?
Yes.
Zur Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai, Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Goal Yisrael, Goal Yisrael. Amen.
Thank you. And we are on page 140 for the Amidah. To stand up if you wish, or stay seated as the Zoom minhag demands. Adonai Tzifatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov. Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon. Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol. Zocher Hasdei Avot ve'Imaot. U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Yachava. Melech Ozel Moshiach Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayei Meitim Atah Rav L'Choshia. Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGeshem, Mazriach HaShemesh U'Morid HaTal. Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim. Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, U'Matir Asurim. U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, u'mi domelach. Melech memit u'mechayeh u'matzmiah Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah l'chayot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hametim. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, keshem shemakdishim oto, bishbei marom kakatuv al yad neviecha.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech kol haaretz, Kavodo.
Kavodo malei olam.
Baruch Kavod Adonai, mimakomo.
במקום מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך, עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. And we're on the bottom of page 142. And if somebody would like to read for us, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Just unmute.
You inspired our ancestor to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good.
Hi, I'm back, but I'm on my phone, so it won't sound very good, everybody. Sorry about that, but I am here. So my internet's gone down, so I'm just over 4G.
Okay. Well, Linda's also
Linda's been doing a sterling job. It's as though we've been working together forever. But Joseph, we're very glad to have you back. And phone or not, we're on Yismachu.
Brilliant.
And we're over to you. We're in your hands.
Okay, great. Yismachu b'malchutcha, Yismachu b'malchutcha, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg, Amakadoshei Shvi, Amakadoshei Shvi, Kulam Yisba'u, V'yitangu mituveha, V'hashvirat sitabo, V'kidash to, V'hashvirat sitabo, V'kidash to. Chemdat yamim oto karata veche lamase bereshit.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Ratzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amacha Yisrael, utfilatam bi'achava tikabel, utihila ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, baruch ata Adonai, she'otcha levadcha, be'ra na'avod. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. Modim anachnu lach. Shatahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu le'olam va'ed. We give thanks that you, Eternal One, are our God, as you were the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot.
Sim shalom, tova ufracha, chen v'chesed rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael amecha, v'cheinu avinu kulanu ka'echad, ve'or panecha. Ivo panecha natata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim shalom, tova ufracha, en v'chesed rachamim v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Torat Chaim, Ba'achavat Hesed Ustaka Uvracha, Barachamim, V'chaim, V'shalom. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen V'chesed, Rachamim V'rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha, L'to beinecha levarech et amcha, Yisrael ve'et kol ha'amim, V'chol eit v'chol shah, Bishlomecha, Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha, Hein v'chesed, Rachamim v'rachamim aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Osei HaShalom.
And we just take, I always find it's a little odd telling people to take some time for some silent prayer when actually we don't have the same cacophony leading up of voices together into a moment of silent prayer and then out into Osei Shalom. But nevertheless, we're looking at new ways of doing things and trying to feel the presence of each other, even in this strange world of screens. So we take that thought that actually this is the point in the week where we do come together as a community, that there's a different way of being on screen than perhaps the meetings or the social events that we have during the week, that we are building a prayer community in this moment. And so with that thought, we go into the silent prayer, which is on page 145, or just a moment to be together, present.
Osei Shalom, Imramav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Ve'al kol Bnei Adam. Osei Shalom Imramav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Ve'al kol Bnei Adam.
Osei Shalom is never quite long enough for me to scroll through the Siddur from the beginning to the end. It's much harder somehow to scroll than it is to flick through the pages. But actually, Joseph, it gives me a moment to ask you which Torah service we are doing. Page.
That seems
I mean,
I think it's 481.
You want to do 481? Fine, we'll do 481.
I don't mind, Charlie, but I'm just
no, that's much quicker for me to get to than 490, so I'm very happy. So we are on page 481 for Kriyat Torah, the reading of the Torah for a Shabbat morning.
En kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'en kamasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha b'chol
tovado. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amoitein, Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shamo.
Gadlu Adonai iti, unoromama Shamo Yachdav.
Lacha Adonai Hagadula, V'Hagavura, V'Hatiferet, V'Hanetza V'Hahod, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lacha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamidnaseh, L'chol l'rosh.
Thank you. So this morning we're entering a new book of Torah. We're entering Leviticus Vayikra, and I sent it to Kevin as scroll scraper. I don't know, Kevin, whether you've got it as scroll scraper. Yeah, because it's got an interesting abnormality. I wonder whether you can just show us that before we do the blessings, Kevin. Can you share your screen with them?
Hopefully this will work.
If not, I can do it.
Oh gosh.
Shall I do it?
Can you do it, Charlie? Sorry,
I can indeed.
Thank you.
I can indeed. Hang on a second. So here we go. Right. Okay. Can people see that? Shall I see if I can make it a bit bigger? Let's
Yes, please.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? Let's see. View. Zoom.
Hey, zoom.
Oh, wrong way. View.
Zoom in.
Let's go bigger. How's that? More zoom? Still
Yes,
bigger? Oh, wrong way.
Okay.
Sorry. How's that? Still bigger?
That seems that's fine for me. No, maybe a little
there.
bit.
How's
Yeah.
that?
Great.
Good.
Wonderful.
Perfect. Wonderful. So, what we have here is Vayikra. We're going to read the very first parasha, the very first section of the very first bit of Vayikra. And just look at that first line. Okay? First line, which is right at the beginning of Torah. And anybody spot the abnormality? You have to look closely, which is why it's good it's big.
Yeah, the aleph is very small.
The aleph is very small. Yes, absolutely. Can we see here? Can you see my mouse?
Right.
The aleph, do you see that? It's very, very small. So always in Torah, always, whenever we see something, you know, the Torah doesn't have any vowels. It doesn't have any punctuation. It has very few gaps. So when something like this happens, what do you think the rabbis do? The rabbis tend to do when something like this?
They question why is
Question it. Exactly. And then when they have a question, they try and answer it. And usually they try and answer it with a story. So what I want you to think about while we're going to read this parasha, we're going to read this first bit of Vayikra, which means, anybody know what Vayikra means?
And he called.
And he called. Very good. And he called. So in this portion of Vayikra, and he called, why is this first word got this small aleph? So as we read this bit, which is really, I always pity kids who get this as their bar mitzvah portion, because it's dealing in a lot to do with sacrifice. But actually, this, I think, as sacrifice bits go, is one of the most more interesting bits of sacrifice. I mean, sorry if I'm insulting people who are really into the kind of sacrifices of the Bible, but for those of you like me who perhaps have always been a bit prone to skip over these bits, this is a relatively good bit of it. So, who is doing our Torah blessings for us?
Me.
Perfect. Thank you. Off you go.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach
le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Okay, so I can either show it to you like this, or I can show it to you with the English. What would people prefer to see?
I think it's good to see a bit of the English as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Happy? Like that? Do we need to make it bigger again? One more? Good? Oh, you're very unaffirmative. Give me some nods or some positive affirmation. Perfect.
Actually legible, thank you.
Good.
Fine.
Okay. Vayikra el Moshe v'yedaber Adonai elav ma'ochel moed le'mor. And God called to Moses and spoke to him out of the tent of meeting, saying, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, v'amata aleichem adam ki yakriv mechem korban la'Adonai, min habehema, min habakar u min hatzon takrivu el korbaneichem. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when any person from you brings an offering to God, you shall bring your offering of the cattle, of the collective, of the herd, or from the flock. Im ole korbono min habakar zachat hamin yekravenu el petach ochel moed yakriv oto litzono lifnei Adonai. But if his offering, or if their offering, be a burnt offering from the herd, they shall make it a male without blemish, so that what was considered the very finest. And they shall bring it to the door of the tent of meeting, that they may be accepted before the Eternal. V'samach yado al rosh ha'olah, v'nitza lo l'kaper elav. And they shall lay their hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for them to make atonement for them. Now, I don't know whether your congregation gets really annoyed with the rabbi interrupting the middle of the Torah portion, but given that I'm only here from ever so often, you can bear with me. Samach is the laying of hands, like smicha, like what rabbis have. So you need to feel this portion, I think. I don't think this portion is just a set of instructions. There's something kind of visceral happening here with the laying of hands, of doing something very physical that takes the sin away. Now, I suppose in modern interpretations, we're kind of uncomfortable with the idea of or most of us are uncomfortable with the idea of sacrifice. What we're not uncomfortable with, or less uncomfortable with, or more familiar with the idea of, is that it's not enough to move from one point to another. And I think this is really relevant at the moment, where we're kind of stuck in a major liminal phase. It's not enough to just say, oh, I'm saying sorry, or I'm moving from this point to the other. We do something physical to take us. We kind of need that physical closing of the door, of letting something go. If you think about tashlich, of throwing our sins away, it's not that we literally believe that by putting them into the river, by putting breadcrumbs into the river, we're getting rid of it. But it's the ritual that becomes important for doing. And here's what's marking this laying of hands. And the word smicha also comes as like a blanket. You know, there's something comforting here as well. Well, that's how I read it. We're back on verse 5. And I'll move the screen up here. V'shechat et ben habakar livnei Adonai v'hikrivu v'nei Acharon u'hakonim et hadam V'zaku et hadam al hamizbeach saviv asher patach ochel moed. And they shall slaughter the bullock before the Eternal and before Aaron's sons, the priests. And they shall present the blood and dash it round about the altar that's at the door of the tent of meeting. V'chiftzit et ha'olah v'nitachoto lintanea. And they shall flay, beat the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. V'natnu b'nei Acharon ha'kohen eish al hamizbeach. And the sons of Aaron the priest shall put fire upon the altar and lay wood in order upon the fire. Remind anybody of anything? That language, the laying of wood upon. I mean, if you read this next to the Akedah, right, we really see the Akedah in a new light or in a refreshed light when we see that how much that language mirrors. וערכו בני אחרון הכהן את הנדנים את הראש ואת הפדה על העצים אשר על האש אשר על המזבח. And Aaron's sons the priest shall lay pieces and the head and the suet in order upon the wood that is on the fire which is upon the altar. וכבו בהחריב ירחץ במים והקטיר הכהן את כל המזבח עולה אשר ריח ניחור לאדוני. But its innards and its legs they shall wash with water, and the priest shall make the whole smoke on the altar for a burnt offering, an offering made by fire of a sweet savour unto the Eternal. It's my favourite bit. Now, there's a concept of God. When God's angry, there's a very physical representation we get of God's nostrils flaring. Now, what do we get here? We get a sweet smell going up. And so if you imagine that's the sweet smell going up to appease God's nostrils. Now, okay, perhaps this is this anthropomorphization of God we can't really get hold of, but we can get hold of, I think, the idea of the calming sense of smell. And again, what this ritual is doing is it's taking the people from one point of being maybe very caught up in their sin into knowing that they're doing something to kind of let go of it, of calming down, and that we need both the ritual and the smell. But we've also got this kind of giving the people, and we, even the most rational of us sometimes need to see something. And this picture of a pleasant smell going up to God's wrath and knowing that it's calming down is perhaps also a picture of us represented. We're made in the image of God. And that brings us to the end of our portion. And Linda, will you read us our blessings after?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And we come now to our Haftarah. And Kevin, we've got somebody who's reading our Haftarah, haven't we? Esther.
Thank you. If we treated our friends the way the Israelites treated God, we'd probably end up with no friends at all. But fortunately, God doesn't give up so easily, as we'll now discover in our Haftarah reading, which comes from Isaiah chapter 43, verse 21, through to chapter 44, verse 8. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim, v'rotza v'dibrechem, hane'emarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, haboher b'torah, uv'Moshe avdo, uv'Yisrael amo, uv'nvi'ei ha'amet v'tzedek. Now, the version that I've chosen to read is slightly different from the one on the screen because I prefer the language. The people I made for myself, that they may sing my praise. And God says, "But you were tired of me, Israel. You did not worship me. You did not bring me your burnt offerings of sheep. You did not honor me with your sacrifices. I did not burden you by demanding offerings or wear you out by asking for incense. Instead, you burdened me with your sins. You wore me out with the wrongs you committed. And yet, I am the God who forgives your sins, and I do this because of who I am. I will not hold your sins against you. Let us go to court. Bring your accusation. Present your case to prove you are in the right. Your earliest ancestor sinned, your leaders sinned against me, and your rulers profaned my sanctuary. So I brought destruction on Israel. I let my own people be insulted. But hear now, Israel, my servant, my chosen people, the descendants of Jacob. I am the eternal one who created you. From the time you were born, I have helped you. Do not be afraid. You are my servant, my chosen people whom I love. I will give water to the thirsty land and make streams flow on the dry ground. I will pour out my spirit on your children and my blessing on your descendants. They will thrive like well-watered grass, like willows by streams of running water. One by one, people will say, I am the eternal ones. They will come to join the people of Israel. They will each mark the name of God on their arms and call themselves members of God's people. And thus says the Eternal One, our God, who rules and protects Israel. I am the first, the last, the only God. There is no other God but me. Could anyone else have done what I did? Who could have predicted all that would happen from the very beginning to the end of time? Do not be afraid, my people. You know that from ancient times until now, I have predicted all that would happen, and you are my witnesses. Is there any other God? And is there some powerful God I never heard of? Al HaTorah, Ba'al HaAvodah, Ba'al HaNvi'im, Ba'al Yom HaShabbat Hazeh, Shenatata Lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Likdusha, Limnucha, Lechavod, Ulatiforet, Al HaKol, Adonai Eloheinu, Anachnu Modim Lach, Uvarachim Otach, Yitborach Shimcha, B'fi Kol Chai Tamid, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Shekoyach, beautiful reading. And we come to our blessings for congregation, for the royal family, and for Israel, which you can find on page 484. And we have readers for all.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this virtual congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue we have created to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed. And may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbors, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Thank you. And we add to our prayers for our country, for our community, for Israel. We add prayer also for healing. There are names that people want to say out loud, or names that people want to just say inside their heads and hearts, or just to think of all of those who are struggling at this time. Then please do so now.
My cousin Nikki.
Thank you.
Okay.
So for all of those people in our community and way beyond who are suffering, struggling, we think of them now. God who heals all flesh, God who lives in each breath, strengthen your people Israel and all who dwell on your earth at this time. Give us blessing and peace of mind. Grant our hearts strength to stand in our places and to stand at this moment of radical change. Provide a complete healing of body and spirit to all those who are sick and in pain, to all those who struggle. And grant to all those who are tending to their needs, nurses, doctors, families and friends, the power to comfort as well as the power to heal. When we are alone, may we find times to be at one with you. While we are withdrawn, may we still be with our friends and family, and enable us to take steps to bring help and assistance in all the ways that we can. Please God, please heal us all. Amen. And I know that there's quite a lot that we'd like to wrestle with, probably with the Torah portion and also with the Haftarah, and been asked about the marks on their arms. It always, that line of Haftarah, I think, and with such a beautiful reading by Esther as well, it kind of takes your breath away and asks, what might it be? I think we don't necessarily know what those marks on arms will be, but certainly there is a real sense of marking the flesh through that comes across in that Haftarah, as well as potentially a metaphorical mark as well for the way that we are scarred by those moments that have come before. But I think we can't help but read that marks on the arm with modern history in our mind. But invite me back and we'll do a longer study around that Torah portion and that Haftarah together. But I thought I'd share with you something, a reflection on, to come back to that little Aleph that we saw right at the beginning of our Torah portion today. And as we know, it's not just the Jews who've gone online. Across the board, religious denominations are taking their ecclesiastical offerings into the virtual, with a mixed rate of success. I think there'll be money in a collection of the funniest ones. Rabbi Leah Milstein recently circulated one of a Catholic priest delivering mass to an empty church via YouTube and suddenly playing rap music as the backdrop by accident to his transubstantiation ritual. There have been clergy setting themselves on fire, younger congregants taking control of the screen, as we saw today, and adding emotions and silly hats to the very serious clergy in front of them. And 1,000,001 Bernies in sanctuaries, and clergy stating that they're not a cat or answering that they are Jackie Weaver and do have authority here. One day this week, I was part of a large interfaith conference, and our similarities and challenges, opportunities and limits are very, very similar. In many interfaith environments, we choose, for the sake of building trust and relationships, to focus on the similarities between faiths. But I do find the differences are also important, if only to help us understand ourselves better. 3 examples have come across my so-called desk this week, and with the middle one, I have to admit to still be struggling a little with it. The first was on that CCJ conference, the Council of Christians and Jews, where we've been discussing Israel and Palestine. Amazing discussions and fantastic speakers. But it fell short for me when we were never really able to tackle the framework of the conversation and discuss whether my relationship as a Jew who has lived in Israel for a substantial amount of time was different from Christian clergy who had never been or had only visited for a short while. The second was an invite from the Israeli embassy to attend their Women in History event, which had a panel of 2 Orthodox women academics from Israel and 3 Christian clergy from the UK, and was entitled Voices of Faith, Women's Leadership on Society, Insights from the UK and Israel, where I asked whether Jewish women in the UK's voices. Reversed, I hoped that I wouldn't agree to be on such a panel. The embassy have later come back, I should say, and acknowledged that the translation of their event was misleading and it did not reflect their intentions. But I am left pondering. And lastly, my son shared with me his RE homework on Judaism, where he was being taught that the Jewish name for God was Yahweh. Long conversations with the head of RE ensued. But it became absolutely self-evident that Judaism was being taught through one type of Christian lens. The interfaith dialogue of today is not always the stuff of structured rooms where tolerance and shared food abide. It is the tricky stuff of asking difficult questions and challenging assumptions. But something has struck me in all these encounters, and that is an extreme difference in the way that engaged Christians and involved Jews, between rabbis, between priests, deal with a sense of calling. While many Christians are happy to use emotive language for their relationship with God and Christianity to say, I found God, God loves me, God and Christianity called me, Jews on the whole tend to shrink from such language. Indeed, this week I was also interviewing potential rabbinic students for LBC and running the section on religion and spirituality. And we asked the questions about God almost with embarrassment, and they're certainly often answered in such a manner. Perhaps it's simply not a common experience of Jews, or perhaps it's not in our nature to be so free with our religious expressions. Or perhaps it's simply not the way we understand our relationship with Judaism or with God. And this week, we began to read from the book of Leviticus, which in Hebrew is known as Vayikra, and God called. The title, as always, comes from that very sentence, that very first sentence of the book which we read this morning. And at first glance, it seems formulaic, the same as we get everywhere. And God called to Moses and spoke to him. But on closer inspection, it does not quite take the same usual pattern. Usually our text says, and God said to Moses, saying. So why here called and spoke? Would it not have been enough to simply use the word say? Why the call? Rashi tells us that the word vayikra, called, is lashon chiba, a word that shows love and friendship and caring. In other words, God is calling Moses here out of love. Before God begins all the rules and the regulations, God calls with love. It would seem, therefore, that this idea of being called is right there at the heart of Judaism, however foreign it's become for us today. When I joined the rabbinate, I could never have said that I had felt I had been called. It just seemed that the language of calling had a connotation of arrogance and definiteness that I was not sure I felt. I did have a feeling from an early age that I wanted to be a rabbi, but it took a long journey of soul-searching and education before I really made that decision. And even then, there was never a sense that it was anything other than my own decision that had led me there. Perhaps not the booming voice of Sinai, but more the still, small voice heard in the prophets has entered my rabbinate since then. And I do feel, in a small way, that sense of calling. And at this moment, in this current situation where so much is unknown and where I found I've had to make choices and decisions that I never felt I would have to make, it is this small, still voice that does provide me with grounding and calm. But a post as a full-time religious professional is not the only type of calling one can have. Certainly we hear of those who feel impelled to work with the needy, those whose vocation it is to teach or defend those less capable of speaking for themselves. And on Thursday, we held a community briefing regarding pastoral support and care in our own communities. And it was one of the best attended sessions we've had in a while. It spoke to me of the fact that their work, those who care for others in our community in small and large ways, can only be called a calling. But perhaps in our professional lives, it's easier to talk of vocation than it is in our own personal, spiritual Jewish lives. If we think back to the first time Moses was called at the burning bush, we will remember that he did not believe that he was the one God wanted. He doubted not only himself, but what he was hearing. However, as the Torah progresses, and particularly at this time we're entering of Pesach, we see that this relationship between Moses and God is developing. And this first word of this week's portion, Vayikra, and God called, contains that scribal abnormality that's very rarely found in the Torah, that the last letter of the word, an aleph, is written smaller than its normal size. And as I said, there's been much debate as to why. Some say that since the aleph is small at first glance, you might read it as Vayikra, and it happened. This is the word that's used when God appears to Bilam in Numbers, and God happened upon Bilam. Vayikra implies accident, and Vayikra, a loving intimacy. However, ask the sages, is it possible that God came to Bilam accidentally? Was the Almighty just strolling down the road aimlessly when he happened upon, or they happened upon Bilam? It would seem unlikely. Rather, they suggest that the way that Bilam related to God was happenstance. Bilam saw God popping up in and out of his life, a bit like Superman. On the other hand, Moses began to understand that God was everywhere. Yet in Moses' humility, he wanted people to understand that his relationship with God was no different to that of Bilam's. But God wanted to recognize that Moses had come to hear his own calling, and so they compromised on a small aleph. It's a beautiful midrash. However, what can it teach us, especially at the moment? I think the message is simple. Even if we are unable to shout out loud about our love for God, our calling for Judaism, we need to find ways to recognize our own small alephs. The concept of being called is more than just connection. And in his book Soul Prince, the modern Orthodox rabbi Mark Gaffney says that calling is the human experience of being summoned to a specific mission or destiny. As Jews, we often do hear the call to lead moral and ethical lives. We understand that this is something we want to pass on to our children. But all too often, we miss our own personal call. Perhaps it's easier in Latin, where vocation is vokar, coming from the root for voice, meaning that our vocation is where we find our voice, where we respond to the call. We have found our true voice, our own unique way of being Jewish. From time to time, we must embrace this and remind ourselves that as well as happening to be Jews, we also feel summoned to be Jews. And perhaps most importantly, we love to be Jews. This is the time for finding our own unique way for being Jewish, of finding new ways to connect to Judaism and to each other, to look for ways to reach out to the outside world as well, but also to remember that we cannot just let it happen. We need to let the summoning lift us and have the energy to create, inspire, and show love. And if we return full circle to my stories of what it means to engage, then perhaps our calling as Jews is also a challenge. To not allow comfort to lead to complacency, to pick the scab a little, to fight for an alternative view, to be heard. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may we all find our calling this Shabbat and beyond. Shabbat Shalom. And we come to the Aleinu, which you can find on page 520, on page 520.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נותן שמיים ויסר הארץ, ומשב יקרו שמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו, ושכינתו זו, בגוב המרומים, הוא אלוהינו אינו את מלכנו רפס ורתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום בהשבות אלוהיך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ ועל הארץ מתחת עינו.
Trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you, let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever, for ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory, as it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete. When those who once brought wholeness to our lives have gone. Yet in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. For we have the companionship of the living. And even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts. For what they were is part of what we have become. We honour them best when we live as they would wish, responsibly and happily, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope. And this Shabbat, Kevin, we're thinking particularly of...
Okay, we're marking the memory this Shabbat of Helga Avensfeld, the mother of Esther, and we wish you long life and strength, Esther. We also remember Stephanie Berger, mother of Gabby Rosenthal. Adrian, we wish you only good things as you remember your sister Christine Brenner Cohen. We also remember Harry Manns, husband of Josephine Manns. Harry Minsberg, father of Jacqueline Kaplan. Henry Saunders, father of Victor Saunders. And we also remember a friend of our community who passed away last year, Vivian Lacra. Zichanach Levracha, your memory is an abiding blessing. Is there anybody else here who wants to remember someone who's no longer with us?
For those we've named out loud. For those that you will always name in your hearts, and also for those who no longer have anyone to say Kaddish for them. Let's say together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. V'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulmei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'itpa'ah v'itmam v'itnasei. V'tada v'talel v'talal shemei d'kedusha b'reichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Diamiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlam araba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Uyasei shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'al kol b'nei adam. V'imru. Amen. May the Most High Source of perfect peace grant peace to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Kevin, shall I hand to you? Are there announcements before we conclude our service?
Okay, yes, there's a few announcements about forthcoming events, but before I relay these, I'd like to say an absolutely massive thank you, Charlie, for again leading our service. I have to say it was inspiring, uplifting, and of course educational. And I, for one, do not mind if I prefer it when there is a commentary, so it keeps you engaged during the Torah reading and gives us some context on what you're reading about. So thank you again, Charlie. And also thank you, Linda, for sort of stepping in as if you'd rehearsed. You actually, it obviously called you out a little, but thank you, Linda, for just kind of seamlessly just carrying on. And Joseph, I don't know what it is, but the two occasions Charlie's actually led a service, you've had connection problems with your singing. I don't know whether someone's trying to tell you something, but normally this sort of doesn't happen. But thank you again, Joseph, for actually recovering from I know how annoying it is when your internet crashes and it's completely out of your hands. So and thank you, Esther, for wonderful Torah reading, sort of making it, sort of bringing it to life. So, all added to what was a really been a lovely service. Yes, there's quite a bit going on at the moment. Okay, first of all, just from a service point of view, I'm delighted to say next Shabbat, Rachel will be leading the service, and I'm almost certain she is actually watching on the live streaming. So we're looking forward to welcoming her back in much better health. And so that's next Shabbat. Then on the Sunday, this is the first night of Passover, we've got something quite exciting. I don't know whether you actually saw it in our newsletter, but South London Liberal Synagogue will be joining us. That's Navan's community, so it will be a joint collaborative service, and that will be an 11 o'clock start on the 28th of March. And then in the evening, we've got a virtual communal Seder. Some of you have actually kind of agreed to sort of contribute to the service. It will be starting at 6 o'clock in the evening. There'll be a bridge sort of Haggadah reading from the LGS Haggadah. Then at 6:45, there'll be a break for meal. And then we'll be concluding the service at 7:30. What we'll do, there will be a newsletter out, and also it's going to be difficult to actually have all the symbols, but we're trying to encourage people to be creative, like something to represent the lamb or the carpus. So feel free to use your imagination on how we can actually represent all the different symbols. And finally, I feel it's worth mentioning at this stage, as you know, that we're moving out of our building at the end of this month, and we'll be having what's called a decommissioning service at 11 o'clock on Tuesday the 30th. There will be a limited amount of people actually in the synagogue, and then obviously taking out the scrolls, etc. And there'll be more to follow in due course about that. There's been lots of discussions on how the whole process is going to work. The one thing we haven't discussed is what animal sacrifices we're going to have to put into place. But anyway, that could be another. We can have another meeting on that. I'm also just going to share my screen, just other events that are happening. There's a lot going on, which is always pleasing. I'll open my screen. Hang on, that's the Haftorah reading. Here we are. Hopefully people can see this. This is from our website, but I really want to bring to your attention to what's going to be an absolutely fascinating talk tomorrow. Johnson Bahari. I've actually got the book here. I'm actually reading this book, and he's actually going to speak to us just about how he put his life on this line during the war, but not just that, how he was trying to save others at the same time. This is really, really inspiring. I really do, out of all the talks that we've had, this is one I absolutely recommend. And also, I'm thinking a bit of Frank here, I recommend the book as well. There's also a talk on Tuesday from Jack's about Jewish prisoners, about their experience of being in prison. Again, that should be fascinating. And as always, we have our Tea and Torah Wednesday morning. And if you are available, I really recommend it. What happened, we picked to pieces the Torah portion. We never know where it's going to go, but it's kind of an informal share, so to speak. And the only difficulty we have is that it's for an hour, it comes to 5 to 12, and we're not even nearly there on actually covering every aspect of it. So, as I say, there's a lot going on at the moment. Is any Alan or Adrian or anybody else want to add anything more regarding the move? Or
just to say that a tremendous amount of work has been taking place over the last few weeks, and particularly this week with regard to clearing the place. It all looks rather sad and deserted at the moment because all the rooms have been cleared. Our sanctuary has got nothing in it at all, and so on. But it all had to be done, of course. And as Kevin said, we will be moving out immediately. Well, we've moved so much stuff out already. And the final service will be on Tuesday week. And after that, it'll be goodbye to Vesper Road.
Sad. And just to say, the Liberal Sanctuary, the empty Liberal Sanctuary, that's how it is at the moment. It does look very sad and desolate. And that is Stefan. I don't know whether you're actually on the service, but that people are saying, who is that? Who's Liberal Sanctuary? That is Stefan has created the image anyway for us. And it's quite fascinating seeing Stephen's backdrop on how it was when in its full glory.
I'm pleased to say that the only thing sitting on the floor in the sanctuary at the moment is the computer that's doing the live streaming, and that will obviously stream when we do the deconsecration service on the 30th. So yeah, I mean, it's been a phenomenal amount of work, and I must in particular, I mean, pick out two people that have been astonishing during the last couple of weeks. One of which, of course, is the ever-present, ever hands-on Mark Phillips. It's just been phenomenal. And also Anne Simon in the office. I mean, watching her work and what she's got through is just incredible. So really, hats off to both of those and all the other people that have helped. I know, Alan, you've done a lot, and other people as well, but sterling efforts. So.
And I evidently Jenny occasionally sees Alan these days. Okay. So Charlie, or Joseph, what are we going to finish off with?
I think we're finishing Adon Alam. Standard 525. Yeah. Adon Alam Hashem Allah, ay ay Hashem Allah, בטרם כל יצרי נברא, ay ay ay, להתנסה בחפץ הכל, ay ay החפץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ay ay ay, באחרי ככלת הכל, לבעדו ימלוק נורא, והוא היה לחם שלו לחגבירה, איי איי איי, בלי ראשית בלי תקליט, איי איי בלי תגלית, הלוך העוז והמזרע, איי איי איי, והוא אלי, והי גולי, וסוחר לי, ועץ הפחה, והוא ניסי, ומנוס לי, ונקסי, ויום אקרא, ביעדו אבקירוכי בעת אישן היה באמרוי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא
ביעדו אבקירוכי בעת אישן ויערה Imruchi gaviati Adonai li velo ira. Into your hand I place my soul. Asleep, awake, for you are near. And with my soul, my body too. You are my God. I shall not fear. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Feel free
Esther,
to
wish you long life.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everyone, and feel free to get your wine, challah, or whatever your tipple is at this time of the day.
Rania, stay safe in Paris.
Adrian, I would like to wish you long life as you remember your sister.
Is everyone filled up as much as they'd like to be?
Kevin, would you like us to do the...
I'd love you. Oh, please. Yes, please. Go ahead, Paula Booth.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ונפש, על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו, סלחי חבריי, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הכפר.
Amen. Do you agree?
Jerry, I'll move to share. So, would you like to do emoji as well?
We can get it out of them.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ.
Amen.
Amen.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. One thing that has come out of this service. We've got some talented singers in our congregation, in our midst. Joseph, I'd be very worried.
Oh, I think your job is safe, Joseph.
I think you take it out, but it's amazing the talent that does that we have got. And I won't embarrass anyone, but there are some others here who have sort of chanted some prayers very
And if any, oh, it's not you, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll stick to the comedy. Yeah. I'm not giving up my daytime job. Don't worry.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank
you, Charlie. It was really lovely.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
If anybody is thinking of going into shul this week and wants to go upstairs, you can't use the lift because it is being dismantled as we speak.
All right.
Oh, I won't.
Okay. If only. Oh gosh.
Bye and thank you.
Bye all. Shabbat
Thank you. And
Charlie.
I have to say, Kevin, when that message came up on my screen, I thought, why does Kevin want to unmute?
Want to what? Sorry.
So why is the host asking me to unmute?
Oh yeah.
Thank you for jumping in, Linda.
That really was good. It was just incredible. Just suddenly,
I just lost connection for about 15 minutes. So, lost.
Very annoying when that does happen. But it was obviously it was a little bit inconvenient. But the fact that we're able to just carry on regardless. So yeah, I know it's so with internet. It's a lifeline, isn't it, these days?
Well done, everybody.
Okay.
Well, did very well. Okay, I'm going to close the service. Bye, Maria.